Hello, BookTube. I have survived the 4 children of the apocalypse. I have survived a long walk. And I have survived Thanksgiving. And now, will I survive weekly reads? um, this week has been, despite the fact that it has been a very busy week, quite productive reading week. So I will start, as I have started the last few weeks, with my readings for New Worlds November. The New Worlds November is a new BookTube reading event in which participants read science fiction in the month of November. The goal, so the theme for this first year is science fiction short fiction, and there have been a series of prompts for the past 4 weeks. First was aliens, and then robots and AI, time travel, and this past week has been apocalyptic and dystopic fiction. New Worlds November was created by the Bookish Bryants and has a plethora of co-hosts, of which I am one, even though I kind of feel bad for not doing more. But anyway, so my goal for New Worlds November was to read a big book of science fiction short stories, a big anthology. And while I do have some anthologies here, I had some. The youngest of them is 20 years old. And while those anthologies have the earliest science fiction stories, they're, in a way, 20, 30 years out of date. There are 20, 30 years worth of new stories that, because when they were published, they don't have. And I wanted a big anthology that got near to today. And I decided to pick up and read for New Worlds November the big book of science fiction edited by Anne and Jeff Vandermeer. This is a big collection of short stories that runs the gamut from proto-science fiction up to published within the last 6 or 7 years, give or take. Or more like 10 years, more than likely. I have been reading from this anthology the last few weekends, and this past weekend I finished it. And while that did give me quite a bit of a sense of accomplishment, this is a massive book. This past reading experience from, let me go to the table of contents, from Blood Music by Greg Bear through Baby Doll by Joanna Sinicello. None of them did anything for me. This reading weekend was quite disastrous. Now, to be clear, I have some caveats. I really haven't gotten on with fiction for the last 2 years. It's maybe 5 or 6 novels, maybe 10, to be generous, that I've really liked since my mid-December 2019 science fiction, really fantasy meltdown. So there's that. Also, when it comes to science fiction and fantasy, particularly science fiction, a lot of older, more vintage science fiction and fantasy. I'm sorry, I always think of science fiction and fantasy, even though it's specifically science fiction, that classic, vintage. Just, I don't really quite get on with most of them because of the writing style and the world building. It seems dated to me. Um, and also, um, we did have the four children of the apocalypse over for the last few weekends and through the week because my brother and sister-in-law have been moving in. They needed somebody to watch the four children and my two nieces and two nephews. And yeah, they were a handful. Particularly this weekend when we had them for 7 hours on Saturday. But yeah, it just, yeah, it was incredibly depressing and frustrating. And I'm not happy with what I read. So what I might do is, instead of having another go at this anthology, um, I won't do that again for a number of years. I might come and read select stories. There were quite a few stories that didn't quite work with me in the context of reading a massive book, but I think if I come back to them on their own, when I have some free reading time, I might like them a bit better. I don't know. But I did want to talk about some stories. And none of the ones from this week. So I'm going to go back to um, last week because there were quite a few that I really enjoyed from last week, week 2. Let me see if I can find them. Huh. Now when I want to find them, I can't find them. Okay. So one is Repent Harlequin, said the Tick Tock Man by Harlan Ellison. And I wish I had a little thing so I could, every time I say Harlan Ellison's name, I can hold it up. Because he has, like, every time you see his name, there's always like a R in a circle. Probably means he registered as a trademark or something, or it could just be he's a jerk. But so Repent Harlequin, said the Tick Tock Man, is apparently a classic story of his, and I have absolutely no idea how. It is terrible. It's basically in a dystopic future. People have become so obsessed with time and arriving on time that a method has been developed that if you're not on time, minutes, seconds, hours of your life can be taken from you. And if you run out of time, you can be remotely killed. And the person who decides this is a character called the Master Clock Man? I don't quite remember what the proper title is. He's more colloquially known as the Tick Tock Man. And in this city, a sort of rebellion has been launched by this character called the Harlequin, who basically plays jokes and causes all sorts of chaos that makes everybody late. And it just, I did not like it at all. It annoyed me. Now, keep in mind, I don't like dystopic fiction. It's never done anything for me, and this story is a perfect example of why I don't really like dystopic fiction. But a work of dystopic fiction that I think did work quite well was... Let's see if I can find it. A Standing Woman by Yototaka Tsusui, which is a Japanese short story in which a authoritarian Japanese government has developed a way to turn people and animals who piss them off into trees. And it is such a powerful, wonderful story. I really, really enjoyed it, despite my usual annoyance with dystopic fiction. It's such emotionally powerful. So yeah. Um, so so that was the big book of science fiction, and I will probably talk about this again on Monday when I do my New Worlds November um, wrap up reflection, because there's quite a bit I want to talk about on that. So moving on to the nonfiction I read, because I'm also participating in Nonfiction November, I read once again 2 books, and I really enjoyed them. They were fantastic. First up, I read The Other Americans in Paris by Nancy L. Green. This is a history of the Americans who aren't as well known. Now, when one thinks of Americans in Paris, particularly expatriates, one thinks of the artists' colony, the writers, Gertrude Stein and Ernest Hemingway and F. Scott Fitzgerald and John Dos Passos and Edith Wharton and also the artists like Mary Cassatt. And while they do play a role in this book, Nancy Green focuses more on the Americans on the right bank of Paris, the non-working and working rich, the middle class lawyers and dentists and shopkeepers and organizations and all of that that also appeared in Paris from the late 19th century to 1940, which is what she covers, but it extends even into the present. So she gives an overview of the non-creative community in Paris, their interactions with the American consulate, the sort of Americans in love, both with each other and with the French, and some interesting stories there. Also, the business, both working in the sense of, like, say, lawyers and dentists and other careers, as well as corporate, which has its own chapter. She also looks at the not so successful Americans in Paris. She gives quite a bit of attention to women, to African Americans. She also looks at how Americans saw the French, how the French saw the Americans, and the complexities in that relationship. And she ends with how this part of the American colony in Paris ended, which was with World War II. And this is a really, really fascinating book. And I could see, I'm definitely wanting, like, or imagining 2 spin-offs of this book, or books that are growing out of this. One is obviously African Americans in Paris, because that is a very fascinating story. And then also of LGBTQ people, of Americans in Paris. I mean, obviously, Green mentions Gertrude Stein and others, but I kind of like it would be interesting, a fuller, more in-depth look on that too. So, I really love this book. It was a blast to read. And I also read Lords of the Sea by Alan G. Jamieson. This is a history of the Barbary Corsairs and the Barbary Coast from the late 15th century, when the Barbary Corsairs got their start as the vanguards of Ottoman expansion into North Africa, up to the conquest of Algiers in 1830 by the French, and the cessation of corsairing activity by the Moroccans in 1846, I think. And yeah, I really enjoyed this book. It's a very fascinating read. And I really enjoyed it. It is a quick read. It is rather action packed. Yeah, like, wish it were longer. Honestly, it was just really good. So, what will I be reading this coming week? So this weekend, I intend to get to my yearly Alexander the Great biography. Every year, I've made it a point to read a biography of Alexander the Great. Usually from the year before. I don't know why I do this, but I do. So this year I will be reading Philip and Alexander, Kings and Conquerors by Adrian Goldsworthy. This is a big dual biography of both Philip II of Macedon and Alexander the Fifth, I think. Or he might have been the third. But anyway, and I'm quite looking forward to this. So I'll be reading this over the weekend and likely Monday, I'm thinking. So from there, I'll have about 4 days worth of reading, and I'm not entirely sure what I want to read. So for history, I'm either going to read or have another go at Thebes by Paul Cartledge. This is a history of the Greek city-state that I read last year, and I had some issues with the last part of the book that I want to have another go at. And I also want to give a Bell redemption shot to Empires of Ice by Diana Kim. This is a history of the opium trade and the suppression of the opium trade in Southeast Asia during the late 19th and early 20th centuries that I had to go at during the history challenge or the history reading challenge in late August. That I really enjoyed what I read, but I guess it's just time constraints that I felt like because Empires of Ice is a very dense, slow book, and I think I kind of started to run out of patience. I think so. Maybe if I had like 4 days with this instead of maybe like 2 or 3, I'll have more success. We shall see. I'm also feeling, even though I've been reading science fiction over the weekends, to read some fiction. So part of me would like to read some Agatha Christie, probably either The Mirror Cracked or A Pocket Full of Rye. One of those two. The problems with reading either one is that it probably won't take me much time to read. It probably would take me maybe 2 days, maybe 3, which would I'd have like an extra day that I wouldn't know what to do with. So, but anyway, I'm kind of feeling the urge to read some Agatha Christie. I could also possibly reread Priest of Lies by Peter McLean. This is the second book in the War for the Rose Throne series, which I read 2 years ago and really enjoyed. It continues the adventures of Thomas Piety. In this case, he continues to fight against the Scanian influence in Dansburg, while also being further enmeshed in the Queensmen. Now, I really enjoyed this book. And of course, a few months ago when I was making, I don't know why I make these plans so far in advance, but I do. I was thinking of making December Bell Redemption month, where I would read a bunch of the fiction, the science fiction and fantasy, the other things that I build on the past few years, and give them a Bell redemption. Um, Obviously, that plan kind of hit a wall, but also kind of still want to try it. So then these next two books are Bell redemptions. Although I don't know necessarily if I'm going to get to them or not. The first one is Wonderland by Stacey D'Erasmo. This is about a musician coming to terms with something. I didn't get too far enough into it to really figure out what that was. And her again. I have no idea why I want to try this again, but I have an urge. I'm not happy with where I bailed the last time I read this. So I may or may not give this another go. More than likely, it's going to be one of the history books, but we shall see. I'm kind of feeling in the mood for some fiction, but I don't know what. So we'll see. I'll report back obviously next week, and you'll find out what I ended up deciding to read after Philip and Alexander. So my week has been quite busy. Obviously, I watched the Four Children of the Apocalypse for 7 hours on Saturday while my brother and sister-in-law finished moving house. It was a experience, as it always is. But they fully moved in, and we went over there on yesterday for Thanksgiving, and their house is quite nice. I mean, there are a few things that need to be worked on. Definitely their kitchen needs probably some work when they have the financial resources available. Although I would say to completely gut it, maybe kind of update a few things, but it's not my house. The kids' rooms are quite nice, although I'm still not entirely sure why they decided to paint Feminine Pestilence's room green and purple. Anyway. And then on Tuesday, I had a rather long errand I had to walk. That took for a while, forever. So that's why I didn't make any videos on Tuesday. I know I mentioned on Monday that I'd hoped to make a video every day this week, and instead I only ended up with 2 videos. But on Tuesday, I had an errand to walk, and that took quite a long while. It was about a 40-minute walk, which was pretty good. I enjoyed it, but it did take away from filming. And then on Wednesday, I think I wanted to try to get a good start on the Other Americans in Paris so I could finish it, because there's another errand that ended up happening during my reading period. And then yesterday, obviously I went over to my brother's for Thanksgiving, and I wanted to get a good chunk of Lords of the Sea read too. So I read during my filming period, which is usually if I want to kind of finish a book or get to a specific point, I'll kind of read during that period. So there won't be videos those days. But anyway, so I've enjoyed it. Going over to my brother's, the food was pretty good. Even the weirdly burnt, although it really wasn't burnt, pecan pie. It was really good. I mean, there's also this weird cream cheese strawberry pie that was actually quite good too. So, anyway, so my plans for next week. On Monday, I will do my New World's November reflection. I'm going to call it a reflection. On Tuesday, I will do my November book haul. I've got quite a number of books over there, and they need to be hauled and put in my catalog and sorted, even though it's not going to be a terribly hard sorting because they're all going to go on this shelf here. Because all I got was history. I don't know necessarily if I'm going to do all history for December. There's a part of me that wants to, but then again, I have a hunger right now for some fiction and for other things. So I might mix up this December. I don't know. We'll see. And obviously you'll find out and when I do my December book haul, when I end up deciding. Although I could also make a video out of it here or there somewhere. Wednesday, hopefully I'll do a tag video. I haven't really been seeing many tag videos that I want, or tags that I want to do. So I don't know. And then Thursday, I'm not entirely sure whether or not there'll be a video or not. And then of course on Friday there will be weekly reads. So booktube, that's my rough plan for next week. We'll see whether or not I follow it. Although I will at least definitely do the New Worlds November reflection, the November book haul, and weekly reads. So anyway, booktube. I'm kind of running a bit long here, and I actually wanted to talk about some of the uh, shows I've been watching. But I think I might do that on Wednesday. If I don't find a tag video I want to do, I might talk about Cowboy Bebop, because I should be finished with Cowboy Bebop by then. I've been watching it on Netflix, and I've been enjoying it. And I might also talk a bit about Marseille, which was the first French language Netflix original series that I kind of been watching, but then I also bailed on, but I kind of want to go back to. So anyway, but I'm still nattering BookTube, so I'm going to go ahead and stop it here. So until next week, BookTube, thank you. Have a great evening and weekend. I hope you all had happy Thanksgiving if you celebrate Thanksgiving, and a general day if you don't. And I will see you next week. So until then, BookTube, stay safe.